Hey guys, my name is Chad Carouthers. I'm back with Worship Online today, and we are talking about issues that some of us guitar players face, dealing with possibly feeling insecure about some of our inexpensive pedals or gear. And we're talking about, one, how to overcome that, how that really shouldn't matter, and that it's an easy hurdle to get over once you kind of start digging in and finding the gold that's within this. And that's what we're here to do today. Okay guys, in part one of this series, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover just some basics on Overdrive and why I have 3 options. But in part 2, we're gonna take it even a step further and go even deeper into these pedals. But more importantly, we're gonna start solving problems later on in the pedal board with our gain stages, making sure that your volume and your output level is as professionally consistent as possible. We're gonna have to try a few things, and that's gonna be in part 2, and you're not gonna wanna miss it. So click the link in the description below, put in your email address, and you'll be sent part 2 with tons of more information on this problem that a lot of us guitar players face. You're not gonna wanna miss it. All right. First off, let me say, if you haven't seen the other videos in this series, please go back and check them out, because there is a lot of great content dealing with the gain staging of our amp in the box pedal, being that this is a totally direct in rig. There's no amp hiding anywhere in the room. This is a drop the pedal board in, give the front of house guy 1/4 inch and say a prayer and go for it. Actually, we're running stereo, so we send him 2/4 inches and say an extra prayer so he knows how to run it in stereo. All right, so what we're gonna do first is, we talked about the amp in another video, but let's look at what the first pedal in the chain is. First pedal for me, I always like putting compression right up the beginning. I'm really barely using it. There are some guys in town, and I wish I was a better chicken picking player. I'm not. But it's super compressed and really popping, To me, that's just not the vibe. I don't like it. And that was a really, really bad example, but you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the compression circuit on this guy is pretty mild. And I do like also that we have this tone control on here. So say you're playing a Strat and then halfway through the set, you're maybe changing to maybe a Les Paul style guitar, or a guitar that's darker, or maybe a guitar that's brighter. You can just reach down and make a slight adjustment on the tone knob, which is really helpful. But anyway, that is the first little step and stage. And I'm using that as gain stage 0.5. It's not even the first one. It's barely there, With it, this is without. With it. To me, it adds a little thickness and just prepares the tone to go into the next sections, which are even more overdrive from this pedal. There's a separate circuit. And then there's another, I'm using a second overdrive here for even more color and different style. But the second overdrive here on this one, so this pedal is divided into 2 pedals. So if you look at it like that versus that, overdrive, compression. It's really simple. And so I'm using the green side right now. And if you see, my drive is super low, because in a digital rig like this, what you really have to pay attention to is your headroom on your amp is really low, because it's gonna get into distortion really fast. And in most worship environments or CCM environments, worship band situations, you're not gonna need a wall of distortion. You need layers of essentially overdrive, because it still needs to have the note integrity. If you notice, I'm using the drive super low on this guy, and let's hear it without, with. So I'm just able to dig in a little bit more, and it's there. Also, if I play slightly lighter, change pickup positions, put the Strat in the quack mode, turn the volume down. Cool, and then might know that song. Anyway, that's my first gain stage. And I would use that on and off kind of for, intros and verses and things like that. Chorus world, I might flip over to a slightly beefier one. So that leads me to my second overdrive. You see some guitar players, they'll have like 12 overdrives on their board. I really just think they're indecisive and they just need to make a decision. That's fine, that's fine. But for us today, we're really minimal. We only have 3, essentially. So we're gonna get all the real estate we can out of it. The second pedal in this, and second stage, is called the Super Overdrive from Boss. It's a really affordable, really great pedal. I wanna say this one is maybe like under $60, $70, something like that. It's great. So for a budget overdrive, and this was actually my very first overdrive. When I first started playing, I had this, a delay pedal, and a tuner, because Lord knows I needed a tuner. And this was it. And if you notice, the drive pedal, or the drive knob is super low right here. Is the camera, if you're getting it, it's super low. There's a lot more gain on tap. And so, probably won't need that much, Because, if we're playing like a lead line, let's throw on some delay, just a rumor more of digital reverb. Let's try with a little bit more. Who knows? Let's see. To me, what I start noticing is when you start adding a lot of gain in a digital situation like this, or an analog direct in situation like this, it starts to just kind of give up on itself. Only because you're not dealing with real tubes, you're not dealing with real tube amp saturation or power tube saturation, things like that. So you really start feeling this wall, if that makes sense, against your hands. And when a tube amp would just kind of fold over harmonically onto itself and all the science and things about it, and it would, break up differently and more efficiently, we are having to look at how do we keep this feeling as natural as possible in a amp in a box situation. And for me, the best way to do that is not overload from one gain pedal or one overdrive situation or one overdrive stage. I would layer it up as we go. So that would be like my main drive. This is kind of, I need slightly more dirt. The Route 66 is like verse level dirt, maybe second verse, we need a little bit more energy. That would be chorus. That's how I would do it and see it. That's how my brain works. Then the LPB1. This thing is just a more louder. It's just you, but louder. And it brings out a little bit more top end. So you kind of have to be careful if you're playing a Strat or a Tele or something with really bright pickups. But as you see, I'm running this thing super minimal. Super minimal. I feel like I need to look somewhere, whoever it is, but if you look here, you'll see that I'm only running it about 9 o'clock. So let's watch this. If you turn it all the way down, nothing. You do have to activate the circuit a little bit, so. It's a bit much, right? So I would put it about 9 o'clock, maybe like 8:30. Yeah. Turn the verb down. Now this isn't giving me more gain from the pedal, it's pushing my amp, and then the amp is giving me more breakup and more gain. So that's how I'm using the boost on this. But when you pair them, so let's look at just the Super Overdrive for a second. Okay, solo section or maybe the instrumental. Close enough. Yeah, you definitely start hearing that it just takes this pedal and makes it louder, pushing the amp, making the amp work a little bit more. And like we talked about in the other video, you want your amp to do as much of the heavy lifting as possible. Moving on to part 2, we are gonna start talking about pedal order, also how to get even more options from this. So you're not gonna wanna miss part 2. Click the link in the description below, put your email in, and you'll get part 2. So here we go.